Lightning like Steve McQueen, I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit, cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly, better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder, and I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you live every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down 3 industry headlines and provide some actual insight into what to all of this clickbait and other bullshit means. And it's most importantly, you guys, it's information that you guys can apply, utilize, and see a meaningful difference in your business with this. Because at the end of the day, I only speak to transportation professionals. I only speak to people who are in the trenches inside of this industry to bring you their perspective on how to do things. There's no theory on any of our content. There's nobody who's trying to write a hit piece that couldn't pick out what a fifth wheel was on a truck if they stood there next to it. All right. So rest assured, we are freight professionals here, and we're here to provide some actual insight for you guys. Before we jump in, as always, my friends over at VHub, the ones who keep this neon light on here bright every single day, make sure that this show comes to you guys. And with what we got right now, you guys, as always, access to trailers is one of the biggest hurdles that you face as a broker. But let alone if you're an owner operator or a small fleet, you should never have to shut your trucking company down because a trailer's in the shop. So with on vhubapp.com, you can check it out. You can get short-term, long-term rentals that are out there, as well as trailer repositionings. And the best part about this, you guys, as you can see, you get paid to do this. All right. So you get paid $18.50 right now, and they have them available in Paragould, Arkansas, looking to go up to Delta, British Columbia as well. And that's a way for you to help offset some of those fuel costs and everything else that are out there. But you got to look at it like this. If you're a US-based carrier that has Canadian authority, you can grab that empty out there in Paragould and maybe Deadhead, or you go over to Kansas City and grab a load that'll bring you up there. So again, you can arrange a lot of this. And they also have them over in Glade Spring, Virginia. Again, $18.50 to reposition it. And that's on top of the revenue you get from the freight that you put in the back of that trailer. And now say you only have domestic U.S. authority, San Diego going over to Irving, Texas. You get paid $600 to do that. There is a lot of freight that moves from the LA basin. And I'll throw San Diego in there, LA basin over to Dallas, Texas. There's a ton of opportunity out there. Again, pick it up, drop it off, and then drop that trailer, and you'll be good to go. So again, you guys hit him up, vhubapp.com. My man Xavier Campos, he'll be in the audience here, and he'll be able to answer any questions that you have. I got a very special guest, but before we bring him up here today, Sonny Sharma, good morning, sir, from Pittsburgh. He's out there on his seemingly fucking North American road trip, it seems like. Sonny, great to see you. Orange Shirt Gang, you are right. Michelle LeBlanc, what's going on? Drop and hook content, you guys. If you're in the need of content manager or any questions related to social media strategy, hit up my friend Michelle LeBlanc. She's the best in the game out there. Drop and hook content. Hit her up on LinkedIn. Samantha Bass, good morning. Great to see you out there. Now, I got a very special guest for you guys. These guys are a class act from top down. I have nothing but positive experiences with this entire family because I've had the pleasure of meeting their entire family. I got Mr. Ed Burns Jr. here with Burns Logistics. So Ed, what's going on, man? How are you?
Chris, good morning and happy Monday.
Happy Monday is right, dude. You're already at lunchtime, essentially, out there on the East Coast. Are you in Pennsylvania this week, or are you out on the road?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
I like it.
Yeah.
So Burns Logistics, man, family-owned organization. What does Burns Logistics do? Because you guys aren't a freight broker, so I want to put that out there for any driver who's listening. They're not a freight broker, but Burns Logistics. What do you guys do, man?
Chris, all we do all day long is connect people. We connect people. So our core business is that we're sales agents for carriers. So we have a book of fleets that we represent. They tell us what kind of freight they want, and we go find it for them. So we help them get into the customer. So the big shippers out there that a small fleet might have a tough time getting into, finding the right decision maker, we help them get in. We help them find some lanes that work for them. And then, we're their sales point of contact, right? So we help them negotiate rate increases or, make sure they're getting the tenders that they're promised. But we're here to connect people, right? So we love, connecting people to the resources that they need to be successful, because we believe that there's enough freight for everybody, and everybody can be successful in this business as long as they're doing a good job. And so that's what we're here to do. We connect people.
Dude, so I think what's the big separator? Because I'm sure there's people out there listening to be like, you sound like a broker, or you sound like a dispatcher. In
Mhm.
my opinion, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, you guys aren't incentivized to withhold stuff from
Right.
you guys are incentivized actually to get them as much money as possible in every situation and fight for your clients. Because like the difference between a broker and say Burns Logistics, in my opinion, is as a broker, we're looking at a volume play. All right. Like I'm going in there and I'm looking to get every single shipment I possibly can for my customer. You
Yeah.
guys are strategically aligned with just a fleet by fleet basis at that point and building out their network or their freight lanes based on the information that they provide to you. So you are very strategically aligned with carrier A who wants to run Philadelphia to Indianapolis. You're finding them outbound Philly freight, and then you're finding them reloads getting back out of Indianapolis back in there specifically for them, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we talk about incentivization, the money flow is the opposite, right? So that's
Yes.
really what makes us different from a broker. We don't set the rates. Our carriers set the rates, and they pay us a little commission on it.
Yep.
So so it's in our best interest to help them out and make sure that they're getting what they need. And then it's a long-term relationship, right? So we're not doing one-off moves. We don't play in the spot market. We're in the contract space, right?
Yep.
So it's not, hey, can you move from Philly to Indianapolis today and pick up at 4 o'clock? It's, hey, I've got 5 loads a week from Philly to Indianapolis. Do you have a carrier for that? And then we go to our carrier base and find the right fit.
Okay. So I guess from a dispatch service, you guys are the structure of your organization is you guys are insured. You guys have all of that stuff, correct?
Nope.
No. Okay. So
Nope.
what
We don't have authority.
yeah.
We are just sales guys, right?
Okay.
So we are not dispatching. We are not doing the day-to-day operations.
Gotcha.
We are your for-hire sales team, right? So a carrier comes to us,
Perfect.
and we're taking the customers out to dinner and getting to know them and understand their network,
Yep.
and nurturing those relationships on behalf of our carriers. So our carriers are they're bringing us on for the sales component. So they
Got you.
run their operations. Most of our fleets have extraordinary operations teams. They do a great job. They take care of all the scheduling, and they just call us when there's a problem.
Perfect. I got you. Yep. So you guys are a complete, like an outside sales force for them to go out there and find them business. And then their operations team is fully responsible for everything internal from providing pickup information, setting appointments, the whole nine.
100%. And all we want to do is make sure that the shipper's happy and that the carrier's happy, right? Because we're looking for this relationship to last a really long time. So are the shippers given the freight that they said they would? And sometimes you have a problem when the spot market's really hot that carriers aren't accepting the tenders that they had promised. So again, we get involved to make sure everybody's maintaining their end of the deal.
Mhm. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once the connection's made, we step back and the connection continues. Yes. Yeah. Operationally, absolutely. But then our job is to, come in if it's a good account. Hey, how can we get more of this business?
yep.
But it's all, how do we find growth oriented opportunities for our carriers, right? How do we find those shippers of choice for our carriers? It's not something short term. Wham
Yep.
bam, thank you, ma'am. We're looking to set up relationships that last a long time.
No, I got you, man. I got you. I don't know if you saw this, but we have a tally on the Freight Coach morning show. We're at day 76 now of their, and this is just because this is the 76th show that I've done, and I started doing it on day 1 of there being a truck parking issue that's out there, as well as a facilities issue of, certain places that don't allow drivers to use the restroom or anything else. And then they're like forced to stay there.
Yeah.
And that's where my problem lies. Like, I understand if a company's like, hey, insurance reasons we can't, but you can drop your trailer and leave. I get that. I can understand that. But what I don't understand is we're going to lock you here and you can't leave for 9 hours. You can't use the restroom. You can't leave. You can't do anything. And if you do leave, you're going to have to wait 3 days to get offloaded.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and how do you guys, I guess from your perspective, how do you guys handle that if your carrier comes to you and says, hey, this facility keeps us for 12 hours. Our drivers can't leave. They can't do anything. Like, how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, that's bad. right?
Yeah.
So that's really, I think it's unacceptable
Yeah.
to do business in a way that doesn't treat people like people.
Mhm.
And drivers are people too, like it's not that complicated. We're very fortunate in our shipper base that um, a lot of our shippers are very receptive to feedback. So if they hear of a problem, they typically work to fix it, right? And if they don't, then they're not a good partner, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of that simple. And there's plenty of freight out there. Even there's a lot of talk about is it softening up? Is it not softening? There's plenty of freight out there uh, to get uh, to get a shipper who's going to allow you to use the restroom, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a non-negotiable, and it should be for everybody. And I think if carriers are disciplined with that, where they say we will not transact business with somebody who is intentionally disrespectful or nasty, and I think that's nasty. That's a nasty
Yeah.
way to do business. If you're gonna make people wait like that, um, then the carriers need to be disciplined and not take that freight.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. Couple of questions. So the carriers pay you for this service. They pay a percentage, which you guys negotiate with them. And
Mhm.
then Vitaly wants to know if that can be billed from both a customer and a carrier side, or if it's a percentage of the total business or a standing fee. And so like your relationships are with the carriers, and then you guys go out and sell for the fleets themselves, correct? So you would
Correct.
be billing the carrier in this instance.
Right. So the
And
carrier
everything.
pays us a
Yep.
straight commission on the value of the line haul. So we don't take anything for accessorials or fuel or anything like that. Well, it's like we don't add any value there, right? So we don't get paid on that. And then the shippers do not pay us, right?
Gotcha.
Just like in a situation where an in-house sales person for a carrier would not accept
Yep.
personal money from a shipper. They get paid by the carrier. Same setup.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get it, man. Drew Driscoll, good morning. Cody Miller, good morning. Glad to see you here. I was gonna say great to see you here, but my brain works faster than my mouth sometimes. Bob, good morning, sir. Let's jump in. Let's jump into some articles, man. I think the first one, my friend Dean Croakey from DAT, he put this one out last Wednesday, and it, because there's a lot of talk right now about inventory levels being sky high and everything else that's out there. People are busting at the seams, you name it. And it goes, and this one was talking about how shippers front loaded fall and holiday merchandise to avoid last year's supply chain. And I think that that's something that we've talked about in depth here on my show. Is I think that why we're in this position was, I think a lot of shippers or a lot of manufacturers out there did front load. They did overbuy on raw goods and materials and finished products that they needed. So they didn't have, because I've never met a store that makes money by having bare shelves and stuff like that. So I think it really changed up everybody's buying patterns this year. And it brought us into a position where we are now. But I think like what we'll find out is like, a lot of it's going to be ended up being liquidated. A lot of that seasonal stuff, like the barbecues, the grills and the outdoor patio furniture, that's all going to be liquidated. It's just going to be a little bit higher level than it probably normally is. I'm not saying like any of this isn't like it's a good thing, because it's not a good thing, but it's also something that we have seen before. So like, how are you when you're out there talking to your shipper partners right now, man? What are they talking to you about inventory levels? Are they talking about a different strategy here moving forward for the rest of this year to liquidate, or is it kind of business as usual right now, just higher freight volumes?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We do a lot in the food and beverage space, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're struggling to plan. I think everybody's struggling to plan, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's just a lot of question marks. I think things are gonna be funky. Like how much do you put to the side? Like I don't know if people really understand what their sales volumes are going to be like this Christmas. I don't know if for most, I think there's the economic uncertainty is making it kind of tough too, and creating some fear. So I think there's a lot of fear. Most of our conversations with shippers right now are really oriented towards, fixing their networks, especially where they were over reliant on the spot market. So they're trying to stabilize with more contract work.
Yeah.
So that's where most of our conversations are.
So have you guys, with that being said, with you guys being in food and beverage, like you don't have to give out like exact numbers, but like,
Mhm.
are you guys seeing a lot of rebids right now at this juncture from anything that was contracted early on? Are they, and if you are, is it more of a, like you brought up rebalancing, and
Yeah.
that's my in my experience is what happens when there is such a drastic difference out there between
Mhm.
spot and contracted freight, that the majority of like, yes, there will be some shippers who are like, no, you need to drop your rate 80%. That will happen. But the overwhelming majority of the shippers, in my experience, and again, my data point is 3 truckloads, and I'm just being completely sarcastic here because that's all I've ever moved in my career. But in my experience, it's more of they're just looking to get a little bit back. They know that they can't sacrifice service, because I think these last 2 years have shown who the real players are in a sense of service. Because yeah, anybody can throw a rate at a load, but if you can't execute upon that, you literally add zero value to those organizations. So
Yeah.
I think for the people out there who have done the right thing, I don't think it's going to be as drastic of a drop as people might be saying out there. Will there be a rebalance of sorts? Yes, but it's not going to be at the expense of them losing capacity. I don't think that, but like, is that something that you guys have seen? Is there rebids kind of happening with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think people are going to market right now. And candidly, there are technologies out there that just make it much
Yeah.
easier to go to bid now than 5 years ago, 2 years
Mhm.
ago. So going to bid, I think, is easier. It's faster for the
Yeah.
shippers. And then I think you also have a situation where there are a lot of transportation managers who are very good at their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Who are getting beat up by the next level, right? They're getting beat up by the C level who's saying, "Oh my gosh, we spent so much money on freight these last 2 years,
Yeah.
and we got to get it back." So whatever you got to do to get your costs down, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's some tension in a lot of these organizations. But I think for the most part, what feedback typically from a lot of the people we talk to is, hey, I'll pay a little extra if I know it's going to get covered,
Yeah.
because I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't, I need service, right? So I think there's a little bit of everything, but I think for the most part, people, I'm hoping. See, I think in freight, it seems like people kind of have a short memory,
Yeah.
uh,
Very. Yeah.
you know. But I think there's some. Hey, maybe there's a balance here.
For
So
sure. Yeah, and I think that that's what we'll see, because I mean, generally speaking, and I guess I dealt with this so much in my career, man, where somebody's going to come in and they're going to offer a bottom price,
yeah,
and then shippers, it's their fiduciary responsibility to entertain it. Unfortunately, it is. You're going to see a drop in your volume potentially for a couple of weeks, but in my experience, every time somebody's came in and sold them on a bill of goods of, hey, we're going to do this and this, just wait 3 weeks. Wait
yeah,
3 weeks and your freight volume will come back. At least in my experience, it always did. And that's why, in my opinion, that's why you always have to be prospecting. You have to keep a full pipeline, because you never know. Just because you have a contract in place, that doesn't mean shit. Like, you have to execute every single day, and you can't think you're ever in a position where, like, I'm good. Make yourself indispensable to your customers, to where when that hotshot broker comes in, or, oh, we're going to, we can say, do this, that they're like, fuck yourself. We have our team. We're good. That's what you should
yeah.
be focused on.
Yeah, and I think the carriers that provide that level of service where they're super reliable, and especially I think in the last 2 years, the ones who were reliable and maybe they took a rate increase, but they didn't take as much as they maybe could have.
Yep.
They took enough and they explained, hey, I've got to hire some more drivers. Hey, my insurance costs are going up.
Yep.
Hey, this is why I need this rate increase. So we have a carrier who had taken some massive rate increases. They do like a lot of LTL. They took some
Yep.
massive rate increases, when the market was really hot. Well, month and a half ago, 2 months ago, they came out and they had dropped their rates, right? They
Yep.
said, look, we can afford to do business at this level. Here's the new rate schedule. Happy to talk about it, but really want to maintain your business. I think they were proactive about it. That was a
Yeah.
responsible thing to do. They understood their costs, knew that they could continue to perform at the same level of service. Some network changes happened, and so it made sense for them to drop the rates a little bit. I
Yeah.
think when carriers are proactive about that, they communicate the costs. They, not that everybody needs to drop their rates right now. But if you're not taking advantage of people, in the market of the last 2 years, which, that could come back again, in 6 months, 2 years, who knows the timeline, but it could get that tight again. And if you're not beating people up unnecessarily, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I agree. That article, you guys check it out. As every link and article that I break down, I put out there in the show notes for you guys to break down on my YouTube channel, The Freight Coach, as well as the podcast audio only replay of this as well, Coffee with the Freight Coach, on iTunes and Spotify. Again, read all of these articles and formulate your own opinion. I don't have to be right. All right. That's not I am not trying to listen to everything I say, but I want you guys to dig in deeper than what these headlines are geared towards and actually read between the lines, because again, there's still freight that's being moved. And that's what we need to focus on. I'm never going to sit up here and say that there aren't changes, that things aren't happening out there, but we need to find a solution, because our customers, frankly, don't give a fuck. All right. Our customers expect us to execute for them. And that's what we're here to talk about, is plans and how we do that. Michelle, I think to answer your question, Google and Facebook groups are going to tell the truth. That is like that's the only way to find out about the shippers who are doing a really good job. Or if you think you are, again, check your Google reviews. That'll tell you everything you need to know out there. Let's talk about this next one. We might only get to 2 articles today, and that's fine. It's my show and do whatever I want. This next article is about speed limiters. This one was from FreightWaves. It's the FMCSA speed limiters in, unsafe at any speeds. I thought this was a good article. I truly do. I thought that they're, seeing multiple perspectives is always a good thing that's out there. Just like with anything, you guys, and I've voiced this opinion numerous times on this show, I am not a fan of government overreach. I am not a fan of them doing anything other than the framework of what they are intended to do and governing somebody's speed. I think, like, in my opinion, here's the way that I see this. Why the fuck do we even have a speed limit? All right. Like, honestly, why do we have a speed limit if there's a need to govern the engines on semis? What's the point of that? Like, isn't that what the state patrol and the DOT is there for? I just don't agree, because I feel like there are far greater safety concerns that come of this than not. And again, I don't have all the accident data down there. And again, I just think that we need to look at this from a when will it end perspective, because drivers don't need more regulations. All right. Are drivers really the problem, or is it the training that they're not given? Is it a fundamental? I feel like this is one of those things that we're treating a symptom as opposed to the root cause. And the root cause is a lack of fundamental training that needs to be done on the front end. What's your opinion on this, man?
Chris, I'm not going to hold back here.
Let's fucking roll. I love it.
I think the technical term for this proposal is horseshit. I think we have I think there's an underlying philosophical problem in our country, right? Yeah. And I think it's this. We don't understand what freedom is. We don't. Because in our society today, we think freedom is the ability to do whatever I want. Yeah. Without repercussions, right? So if that's the frame, then okay, speed limiters make sense, because we got to keep you safe, and because there shouldn't be repercussions. You should be safety and freedom, balance it. But what freedom, I think is intended to be in our country is the ability to do that which is right. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and in that frame, the government really doesn't tell you that. That doesn't mean there aren't any rules or any laws. It does, but it means that fundamentally people have the ability to do that which is right. Right. Yeah. And I think what we're creating is we're trying to create a system in which it's like, if you've ever gone to a bowling alley, you don't see the kid with the bumpers down the alley getting a strike and saying he's a really good bowler. Like, no, the bumpers are there. Yeah. And so there's like an outside force which creates a result, which maybe is good, but you have to do the right thing the right way. And I think we're creating a society in which it's taking the ability to make decisions out of people's hands, and it's taking away personal responsibility. And then if you're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have speed limiters, people say, why do you want people to die on the highway? I don't want people to die on the highway either.
Yeah.
But the way we're going about this may not be in our best interest, right? Maybe it's better to teach people how to drive safely. Maybe it's better to create a system where people, like most accidents that you see, like it's not always the truck driver's fault. And if you drive, like I live along this stretch of highway, Route 78 in eastern Pennsylvania. It's been under construction for a very long time.
Yeah.
And right now it's super tight, right? You got these cattle chutes and it's trucks in the left lane only, right? It's a mess to drive on. Why is it a mess? Well, you got these hills, you have all the trucks in the left lane, and they're doing like 40, 45 getting up these hills, right? Because it's tight, it's tough.
Yeah.
And you got people zipping by in their little Camaros, going way too fast, encroaching, going in blind spots, cutting off trucks. You have an 80,000-pound vehicle and people cut them off like 4 or 5 feet in front of them. He can't even see you.
Yeah.
So like, I think we think that regulations are going to help make us safer, and maybe there's an underlying more fundamental issue of taking responsibility for our actions that we need to address first. So we're going to have speed limiters in trucks. Okay, then what? Then it's going to come to cars, very obviously. And I think there's also an interesting overlap between people who say, well, it's not safe driving big trucks, so you have to have speed limiters, but it also would be unsafe to have trucks that drive themselves. So we'll just take some of the technology from trucks that drive themselves and put them in trucks that are driven by people. And it's like the best of both worlds. I think there's like an interesting overlap there.
Yeah.
But I think this is the kind of stuff that encroaches. And it's always done in the name of safety, and it's a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then what? Well, eventually no one's going to have to make a decision for themselves ever.
Yeah, dude. And that's the thing, like, because, I'm reading through this, and again, I see both sides of this. I have looked at this as subjectively as I possibly can. And nobody can agree on a speed on it, because again, from this article, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety also considers speed limiters a safety requirement, although it does not advocate for a specific speed of setting on these devices. Hence to my original comments of what's the fucking point of a speed limit?
Yes.
Like, that's what it's there for. And I think that does that improve? Like, again, does limiting or governing an engine at 70 miles an hour or 65 miles an hour, does that improve a truck braking when it gets cut off by a car who's not fucking paying attention?
Right.
Does it? I don't know. It doesn't state in this article, but I would assume no. It doesn't improve a driver's reaction time for shitty car drivers. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't truck drivers out there who disregard the law and hit and kill people. All right. I'm not saying that at all. But again, what about the 98% of the drivers that are out there doing the right thing, that have exemplary safety ratings, that do the right thing? Why are you punishing the many to try and protect? Because, like, I hate to break this to people. Rule breakers are going to break the fucking rules no matter what's out there. All right. You know how ELDs were supposed to solve all the hours of service and the fatigue? Guess what, you guys? Anybody can fucking reprogram that to have that do whatever the fuck it wants. All right. It's a Band-Aid. And that's all that this is it's a potential Band-Aid until they figure out how to work around this and then disconnect their ELDs so it doesn't report speed data. It's just, I'm not saying that this isn't something to look into, but I feel the best use of our tax dollars in this situation should go to having actual studies about what the benefits it can do for your business and the safeties of others if you do this. Put those examples out there. And again, let the individual make that decision for themselves.
Yes.
Because I don't need the government to tell me what the fuck to do every single time. I know not to cut off oncoming traffic. All right. Because I don't want to die. All right. Yeah. I know how to put my fucking pants on. I don't need somebody to do that. I don't need somebody to tell me that. I'm not a fan of government overreach. All right. Like, I'm not going to walk this back at all. We need to put having people out there to do the right thing. All right. It's that simple. We need our law enforcement to hold these fucking people accountable. We need the FMCSA for these egregious violators out there. Because again, I bet you if we pulled all the data on who's the one who's doing this. There's a small subsector of that. How are they so easily able to reincarnate and become another fucking company? Case in point, Colorado, that guy whose brakes fried and he hit and killed all those people. Guess what that trucking company was able to do within 24 hours? Reincarnate into a brand new carrier. How is that? That's the fucking root cause.
Yeah.
It's shit like that. And we're not addressing that.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And I think it's really a question of like, what kind of world do we want to live in, right? Do we want to live in a world where I can make decisions for myself and have responsibility and take repercussions, right? Like an appropriate repercussion is shut that person down and they can't operate in this business anymore. Like that, that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
Or do we want to live in a world where we're always told what to do and we outsource all our thinking and all our decision making and all of the associated responsibility, you know? And I don't think there's alignment in our industry and certainly in our country about which is the best way forward. I think it's very much, I think there are two camps in it. But we should hash that out first before we implement all this stuff.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it, man. It's just like, again, we have to stop treating symptoms. Yes. We have to identify the real root cause and fix it from there and move forward. We have to hold people accountable for their actions. You should not have a CDL, in my opinion, if you are busted doing an egregious act outside of normal, it was an accident. And we all know what that is. All right. If you are proven beyond a reasonable doubt, the way that our court system is fucking set up for that you did this, you should not have a fucking CDL. Just like these companies where you've reincarnated numerous times to skirt the insurance, to skirt all of that shit, you should lose your ability to run a trucking company. Because again, 95% of the trucking companies on the road are doing the right fucking thing, and they are paying for the 5% that is breaking the law continuously. All right? How is that fair? I want somebody to explain how that is fair. Why am I, as somebody who does business the right way, legally by the FMCSA, why is my insurance going through the roof when I have an exemplary safety record and everything else? Because I'm sure there are tens of thousands of trucking companies who feel this way to pay for the people who are going to break the law no matter what. In my opinion, that's the root cause. That's the fundamental thing that needs to change is why are they able to reincarnate, especially after a fatality?
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I think that's the real issue. You know? I don't know. I don't know everything. Again, I just want people to look at this from a different perspective. I know we went a couple minutes over, but frankly, it's my show. I'm gonna do that. Michelle has let me see here. Government overreach, safety, do the right thing. This has been IntelliStop's battle. We are the poster child for this struggle. Large trucks are burdened with the responsibility of careless drivers. Our government hobbles proactive solutions for carriers.
Yeah.
Amen, Michelle. Amen. Michelle, I'd love to talk to you. DM me, please. I'd love to hear more about IntelliStop. That's it for today, guys. Again, that was from FreightWaves, FMCSA speed limiters. Again, you guys, as always, research. This was a good article. I like seeing the multiple perspectives that were out there. John Gallagher put out a good piece. Research it. Formulate your own opinions. Because again, if you're a broker, you guys, this will affect you. All right. We're not immune from this as brokers. As much as we like to think, anything that's out there affects us. Okay? It affects us. And we need to pay attention to that. So, Ed, how does anybody find out more about you or Burns Logistics, my man?
Awesome. BurnsLogistics.com. Can find us on LinkedIn, Ed Burns. Happy to connect with anybody.
I love it. That's it for today, you guys. Thank you all, everybody in the comments. As always, you guys make it a fucking lively show. We'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. Just to bring some reality. The Freight Coach Morning Show is the top morning show in transportation, you guys. And again, if you saw value in this, share the show. All right. That's how all of this stuff has grown over these past 2 years, is from each and every one of you who are participating and sharing this out there to your network. Because if you see value in it, your network's going to see value in it as well. I appreciate you guys all so much, and we'll be talking to you soon.